Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Figs YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips. This is another episode of Eddie versus the algorithm, but this time it's the international break. It's a wildcard special here. We're going to be having a look at the computer-generated algorithm team that's predicted to get the most points over the next foreseeable future. And then I'm going to be putting together my own wildcard draft, and you guys can judge below whether you think the computer or the human knows better in terms of FPL. Now, the Gameweek wildcard is something that I've not written off myself, especially because the draft I put together probably doesn't look that dissimilar from how it would look one game week later in Game Week 10. I think why many people won't be wildcarding this week is that the fixtures in their side just look pretty decent at the moment, which seems like a pretty good reason on paper. But if you're looking to get some better players who are in better form at the moment into your side, and they also have good fixtures this week, then if your draft doesn't look too dissimilar, maybe jumping a week early could be a play. So all that to come. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Check out the links below in the description if you want to see how the algorithm wildcard team develops, because it can change over the international break as things occur. There'll probably be some injuries and stuff like that. So make sure you're following along via the links in the description. But without any further ado, let's get into things, shall we? And if you'd asked me to guess the formation that the wildcard team was going to be deploying, I would definitely not have guessed a 4-3-3, but that's what the algorithm is lining up with this week. I think, if I'm right, then there may be a midfielder or two on the bench who maybe just don't have the best fixture this week, because the three-man midfield at the moment with the amount of stacked options is probably not the way I will be going. But yeah, let's have a look at this team then and get into things so we can actually check that out. We've got in goal Matt Turner, so him starting against Luton this week, if he's in your squad, seems pretty much a no-brainer. Doesn't really matter which other goalkeeper you probably have this week. Luton at home is arguably the best fixture you can have in all possibilities this season. So Turner looks very good. I don't think he's going to lose his place anytime soon. There was a bit of rumours that maybe after the Brentford game that he made a mistake there. Could the other keeper come in? I'm not so sure that's going to happen now. He's kept a clean sheet. I think, to be honest, until he does lose his place, he's worth just having in the team. And, you're going to start him this week anyway, even if he ends up losing his place and he doesn't play against Luton, which is probably the worst case scenario. You've got whichever keeper you've got who might have the best fixture this week, but they're down there on the bench. And I don't think there's too much upside with goalkeepers so far this season anyway. I think with the lack of clean sheets that we're seeing, and we've seen, just due to this more added time or minutes in play, generally, we're going to see less clean sheets, and I think there's less upside to goalkeepers, which is why I'm keen to save as much money when it comes to whoever you stick between your sticks. And Turner is definitely in that category where you're saving some big money with him having started the season at 4.0 million. In defence, let's see if there's any more budget allocated there. We've got a double up on the Arsenal defence with Zinchenko and Gabriel both in the side. Anderson as well of Crystal Palace, who's been in some fine form and some attacking returns already this season. And another man who's grabbed some attacking returns already. Matty Cash is in here. So I really like the look of this defence. And in fact, the Arsenal defence in particular does look pretty good to target over the next 5 game weeks or so following Game Week 10. So although the Chelsea away fixture this week does not look too strong, I think that Zinchenko and Gabriel will be nice holds for the game weeks following Game Week 9. So they look very good. Whether both will continue to start remains a little bit of a question due to the fact that, Thomas Partey will be returning to action shortly. But if Gabriel and Zinchenko do continue to get the game time, which, they've kept out Erling Haaland and Manchester City, you're hoping that maybe they should, then they are going to be great options, both priced at under 5.0 million now. So they do look very good. Obviously blocks you going for someone like an Odegaard and a Saka in midfield if you do end up wanting to go for that. But as mentioned, with the plethora of midfield options, I don't think there's too much risk of wanting to have both Saka and Odegaard in your team anytime soon if you don't own either of them going into your wildcard draft. Matty Cash seems pretty no-brainer to me, to be honest. Aston Villa fixtures look pretty good, and just how attacking he is, playing often in a right midfield or right wing role, getting forward, registering some really, really high XG, no-brainer in my vote. He'd probably be the first defender on my team sheet on a wildcard draft. And then Anderson, who you are spending that little bit extra money over someone like a Mark Guehi to get in your side, but has definitely shown why he's worth that little bit of extra money. And there's definitely an argument and case in point for spending a bit more of your budget to go for Anderson, because he's great for bonus points and he's also had a lot of attacking threats so far this season in and around the box. We saw how lethal he looked against Manchester United with that stunning strike. And yeah, overall, just really rate him as a player, and it's good to see that he's coming good as an FPL asset once again this season. In midfield, the midfield three that is lining up with this week is Salah, Bowen, and Mbomo. So Mbomo retains his place, or, I'm sure he's in a lot of teams. I'm sure a lot of teams have transferred him out, but he's still in the algorithm wildcard draft, which is definitely something that shocked me. Bowen is in here as well, who I think is a much better pick, and Salah, who takes the captain's armband, is the main man and star of this midfield. So Mbeumo and Brentford are a team I would be swaying away from on the wildcard, to be honest. I don't think they've been in the best form lately. They're not scoring as many goals as we saw in a few of the earlier game weeks. Whether the computer is putting a bit too much emphasis on some of the XG data from the earlier games of the season, that's maybe something I'd question, because over the last few weeks, they have not looked anywhere near the kind of threat that we saw in game weeks, say, 1 to 3. Bowen, on the other hand, has some really nice fixtures with West Ham. I think that targeting West Ham on a wildcard is a really good idea. Bowen is obviously the main man in that side. Penalties are still a bit of a question there, I believe. I think we've got James Ward-Prowse, and we've also got someone like a Paqueta could be ahead of Bowen. There are many good penalty takers in that side, and though we have seen Bowen on them in the past, I suspect that he's not on them so far this season. I can't even recall if we've had a West Ham penalty already, but James Ward-Prowse still probably has those duties if he's on the pitch, you'd assume. But, as mentioned, they've had players like Paqueta, Benrahma take them in the past, who may well still retain penalty duties, given that they've got pretty good records themselves. And then Mohamed Salah, who just has to be a lock-in. Not really much to discuss there. Again, one of the first names on the wild card. Great fixtures over the next few for Liverpool. Definitely a captaincy option as well. He's just been so consistent so far this season, and it seems to be the story with every single season we have in FPL right now. And then up front, his partner in crime with the premiums, Erling Haaland, does come in and take that vice-captain's armband, alongside Ollie Watkins, who I think will be a pretty standard pick at a lot of wildcards as well. But Visser too. So Brentford, not only has he gone for Mbeumo this wildcard, but the computer has also decided to go for Visser too. So definitely not something I would do. It's a bold call. It's a bold strategy. Will it pay off for him? But yeah, going for those two. Burnley at home, I mean, it's a pretty nice fixture. But to be honest, for me, Brentford are just a pretty firm avoid right now. I don't think they look quite at their best. And, this side has only got, the one Manchester City player in it with Erling Haaland. I think that with Rodri back, they'll look great. Watkins, I do really like, though. And so if you can only have him or Alvarez, then you've got a pretty tough decision on your hands, really. The Aston Villa fixtures look really nice in this draft. Doesn't have a Diaby in the starting 11. I guess we'll see if he's down there on the bench. And in fact, let's reveal it now just for the full context of the side. We've actually got Bukayo Saka, Estepinian, and then Anderson of Newcastle. So, interesting bench. The caveat being that Estepinian is back and fit and available for this, obviously. But Brighton's fixtures do come good very soon, and actually do quite like him as a pick. And to be honest, I think he's less of a wildcard pick and more of a, if you still own him at this point, then you definitely want to keep him. And that's my thoughts, to be honest, with Estepinian, because I think a lot of people now won't have him come Game Week 11, Game Week 12, and at that point, you could get some serious upside out of him, because he has had great attacking threats so far this year. So Saka's still in the team, which is interesting. There is an Arsenal triple up already in here, which is making me nervous to reveal my team. But yeah, we've got Anderson as the cheap kind of midfield option. So really, it's going to be probably a 3-4-3 most weeks this side. But with a very strong back five, definitely wouldn't be surprised if it's going to have to field 4 defenders in a few game weeks down the line as well. And then finally, we've got Johnston. So it's a Johnston-Turner duo, which is actually the duo I own in my own team at the moment. So that's very interesting to see. I think that that's a pretty good double up. There is a Game Week 10 conundrum where both of those players don't have a great fixture, and Areola and West Ham, as I mentioned with Bowen, have some really nice fixtures going forward. So personally, if it was me, I would just drop Johnston down to Areola, save the 0.3 million, and it can be useful elsewhere right now when we're trying to squeeze in Salah, Haaland, all these premiums, as well as some pretty great mid-price options as well. I think that probably saving that little bit extra money and just going for Areola is the call I would go with. So let's have a look at my team then and how it looks and it compares to this algorithm side. I've actually gone with Turner Areola, as mentioned, and you could probably have guessed. I've then gone with Udogie, so I've kept him, despite the Spurs fixtures not looking quite as strong. His attacking data looks good. He's been getting forward a lot. But between him and Pedro Porro, and to be honest, it was quite hard to split the two of them. If I had the little bit of extra money, maybe I would go for Pedro Porro. But I had to spend some of that budget on Kieran Trippier. I think that he is just worth it over Botman and Burn. And there's been a lot of, he's got a lot of assists over the last few weeks, and he offers that kind of attacking threat that none of the other Newcastle defenders really offer. I know Botman and Burn have scored in recent weeks, and to be honest, you could go for either of those. If Botman's fit, I probably prefer him just from the slightly more assured minutes than someone like a Burn with all the Champions League and all this stuff. But Burn's been playing a lot of games, so I think it's relatively safe either way. Then got Salah, Son, Bowen in the midfield. We've also got Gordon and Neto, so some cheaper kind of lower budget midfielders in this side. Gordon and Neto in particular are two I really like at the moment to save those funds. Gordon will be back. He needs to get 5 more yellows to get suspended again, and he looks really good for his fixtures with Newcastle over the next couple as well. And I wanted a way into that Newcastle attack, so happy to go with him, given that Harvey Barnes is out for quite a long time. Son, I've managed to get in here as well. I think he looks really good at the moment, and I think it's kind of just you have to have Son or Maddison in there, is my analysis anyway. And then Neto. I was between him and Hwang Hee-chan, actually, who's been in some really good form as well, and is actually 5.4 million, so a bit cheaper than Neto. But Neto just seems like the man in that team at the moment, and Wolves have been scoring a decent amount of goals, which is not something we've always been able to say. I've then gone with Haaland and Watkins up top, and then I have gone with Guehi on the bench. So I've got him and Taylor at 3.9 at Burnley, just for a cheap starting defender. But Guehi's going to be the one who rotates in for a few game weeks, and in particular, I think it's game week 10 or 11, where Palace have a good fixture. I think it is game week 11, where there are a lot of poor fixtures, and Guehi and Palace have a really nice game. So that's kind of why he's in, just almost to rotate in just for those one odd weeks. Because with the attacking threat you've got in defenders like Cash, Trippier and Udogie, I'd back them the majority of the time unless they have a really tough fixture on paper like a Man City or someone like that. With Rodri back, I think Man City are going to improve quite a lot, and I wish I could have squeezed Alvarez into this side as well. I considered a 3-4-3 formation too. But at the end of the day, I think the 3-5-2 just does look very, very strong. And I like Gordon and Neto as options right now. And then got Archer as the third forward. And as mentioned, we got Turner and Areola. So Areola will be the keeper who comes in for the majority of games. But yeah, that's going to wrap up my team and wrap up the video. So let me know guys down below in the comments, whose draft do you think is better, the computer's or my own? I want to see your thoughts down below. Let's have a vote, maybe. We can leave 2 comments. Whoever gets the most likes ends up being the one who's voted for the most. I'll be offended if it's not me, guys, so make sure you're voting for me. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. I hope to catch you in the next video. I wish you the very, very happy rest of your week, and I will see you very soon for more content as we get nearer to Game Week 9. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.